Morning, my name is Tony Barzelatto and I am the Director of Safety at Riverbay Corporation. We are presently in a high-rise building at one of the apartments to talk about fire safety. Since December, we have had 4 major fires at Riverbay, and it's the cause for alarm that we have to get involved and start spreading the message about fire prevention. Let me give you a little bit of background about myself. I am a volunteer firefighter in New Jersey, just started my 43rd year. I retired from the state of New Jersey as a fire marshal. From there I went on and became a safety inspector with the United Nations. And all of that education and qualifications has now been brought to Riverbay, so now I can embark on providing safety for all of the residents and the staff here at Riverbay. So what we're about to do today is to talk a little bit about some safety tips that residents can apply to themselves here, whether they're in an apartment or a townhouse, it doesn't matter. And we're going to just touch on some individual items that will help them prevent a fire, and also talk a little bit about what to do if a fire does occur in the apartment. One of the reasons that we are in this apartment, we are having a discussion about fire prevention. And the reason we're having the discussion about fire prevention is based upon the past 4 fires that we've had at Riverbay. All of the fires that have started were all centered in the kitchen area. And some of them have started from electrical sources. One started because of a child playing with matches, which is a very serious infraction. So we have to identify some of the hazards concerning the fires and how they started. But before I really talk about the hazards, I want to talk about this new campaign that we are embarking on here at Riverbay. We have partnered with the fire department, with the city of New York, and the American Red Cross. We are going to be presenting fire prevention seminars to the community at large, both in a town hall settings and also individually by the associations. It is critical that every shareholder try to come out and attend one of those seminars, because it'll be very informative. It will be conducted by, as I said, the fire department, the Red Cross, and myself. And we're going to talk about fire prevention. We'll give some fire prevention tips, talk a little bit about fire safety, and how to get out in the event of a fire. It is critical, especially because of the past fires that we've had. We want to first try to prevent the fires from occurring, and God forbid if one does occur, we're going to give you great tips on how to get out if there's a fire in your apartment and or townhouse. What we want to talk about now is an item that actually is what we call a life safety device, and that happens to be a smoke detector. A smoke detector, if it is installed properly, if it is maintained properly, will actually save your life, because the concept is that if a fire starts, there are always going to be a small incipient stage fire that will start. It will generate enough what we call products of combustion to actually activate the smoke detector. And when the smoke detector activates, if you're sleeping, of course, it'll wake you up and with enough time to be able to evacuate safely out of the apartment. Now, here's some points about the smoke detectors. First of all, just to let everybody know, within the next month or so, you're going to be getting correspondence from Riverbay. We are going to be embarking on changing all the smoke detectors in every apartment throughout the Riverbay community. And the requirement is that we must have a smoke detector in every bedroom. As you can see here, there is one in this bedroom. So every bedroom has to have a smoke detector. And they're also out in the common hallway, within a certain distance away from the bedroom. There will be what is known as a combination, both carbon monoxide and a smoke detector, that will be installed in the hallway. So we will be installing them in every bedroom and in every hallway, in every apartment, and every townhouse. Now, here are some of the important tips with the smoke alarm. First of all, you are never allowed to paint a smoke alarm. All smoke alarms, if painted, actually will void the warranty and actually will make the smoke detector non-functional. It is also imperative that you clean the smoke detector. Every couple months, just take a vacuum and vacuum out any dust or spiders that might be in there. You can just wipe the outside with a damp cloth, okay? You don't want to use any harsh chemicals on the smoke detector. And the good thing about these smoke detectors and the carbon monoxide combination detector that we're going to be putting in every apartment is they are a sealed unit. These detectors are good for 10 years. It's got a battery built into it, so you never have to change the battery. If the smoke detector activates, that means that there either is possibly a carbon monoxide or a fire in the apartment, and from time to time they may malfunction, and if they do, all you need to do is to call maintenance and they will be glad to come and replace the smoke detector because of the one that may malfunction. But it is important to recognize that this smoke detector is a life safety device, and you are not allowed to remove it, you are not allowed to cover it, you are not allowed to do anything with this device. It's going to save your life. Think about the benefits of something as cheap and simple as this to save your life. It's worthwhile paying attention to. Okay, as you can see, we are in a bedroom of a residential apartment building, and we're going to talk a little bit about some fire safety tips. In the event of a fire, you got to be able to get out of the apartment safely. Now, the first thing you should do before you sleep is always remember to have the door shut. Your bedroom door should always be shut. So if there is a fire on the other side, you want to be able to block it from coming in. So while you're sleeping, of course, if there is a fire outside, or certainly even a fire in the bedroom, the smoke detector will activate, whether it's the one out in the hallway or the one that's in the bedroom. It will activate. The first thing you need to do is you've got to come to the door with the back of your hand and feel the door. The back of your hand is actually the most sensitive part of your hand. Feel the door. If it's hot, do not open the door because you know there will be fire on the other side. Take some of your clothing and stuff it at the bottom of the door to prevent the smoke from coming in. Open the window a little bit to get some fresh air and call 911 and tell the fire department what floor you're in, what building you're in, and tell them that you are trapped in the bedroom. The fire department will then be able to access to come into the bedroom. Now, if you come to the door and you feel the door and it's not hot, you want to open the door very slowly because there will be smoke there. You want to get down as low as you can and crawl outside of the apartment down to the fire exit. And as we know, on every floor there's either an A exit or a B exit. You want to get to the nearest unaffected exit and get out of the building. Of course, before you leave the building, if there are other occupants in the building, you want to scream fire to wake everybody up to allow them to exit with you. You do not want to try to rescue them yourselves. You want to leave that to the fire department in case they are trapped. It is important, though, that if there's a fire in the apartment, that you leave the apartment immediately, exit out of the building. That's the only thing that's going to save your life if there is a fire in the apartment. Fire, as you may know, there are three things that make fire. We need heat, we need oxygen, and we need fuel. The concept of extinguishing a fire is to remove one of those which will extinguish the fire. Now, it is important that when you exit a room or if you exit the apartment, it is critical that you shut the doors, because by shutting the door, you will actually help to cut off the oxygen, which will then go to extinguish the fire. But if you leave the door open, all it will do will continually fan the fire, and the fire will just get bigger and bigger because you've just introduced more oxygen into the fire. So it's important that you shut the door if you can and if it's safe to do so before you exit the apartment. As you can see, every apartment has a fire safety notice that is put on the back of the door. It is important that, first of all, that the notice is there. It is also important that this notice does not get painted or covered. But most importantly, it is important that every shareholder take a minute to read all the very important information that is attached to this notice, as well as the information that gets sent to you every year, some fire safety information. It's important that you read that information and understand what it's all about. Now, if you notice on the fire safety sticker, it actually says you are in a non-combustible fireproof building. One of the benefits of Riverbay is that every apartment is an enclosed, self-enclosed apartment. It's a fireproof enclosure. That actually means that if there's a fire outside of the apartment, it will take a long period of time for the fire to actually enter into the apartment. That's a very good safety feature for every shareholder and every apartment throughout Riverbay. Now, just like we talked a little bit about the fires occurring in the apartment and you have to exit out of the apartment, the same concept, if you hear somebody screaming fire outside, you want to make sure that you feel the door first and make sure that it's not hot. Now, when you open the door, you've got to understand that there will probably be smoke in the hallway. You need to try to exit as quick as you can to the nearest unaffected stair and exit all the way down outside the building. Now, if there's a fire on the floor or it's not in your apartment, that same concept applies, that you should exit out of the fire floor and exit down and out of the building. Okay, as we've talked about, if there's a fire in the apartment or a fire in the floor, the first thing you need to do is exit as quick as possible out of the nearest unaffected stairway. And as you can see here, I'm pointing to an exit, which is in stair A. If you enter into this exit, it will take you all the way down to the first floor and you can exit safely out of the building. It is imperative that you try to locate the nearest unaffected stair whenever a fire occurs. And most importantly, no matter where you go in this world, if you go to a hotel, if you go to a museum, if you go to a mall, the first thing you should do is identify multiple exits and know where they are ahead of time, and don't wait for the event or a fire or an active shooter to occur and then have to go for the exit, look for the exits. You should already know where the exits are ahead of time. It's called pre-planning. Another item I'd like to point out, as we've talked about the fire stickers, every exit will also have its own identifiable sticker that will identify the exit for the firefighters. So they also will know what exit that they're dealing with on every floor as well. And just like the stickers on your door, these stickers are also not to be destroyed, removed, or touched in any fashion. Okay, as we've talked about the importance of exiting, we talked about exiting out of an exit on every floor. It is important that you do locate the exits and you use the exit stairway that's identified on every floor. It is also important that you never use an elevator as an exit from a floor. As you can see here, every stairway or every floor, the elevator will have a sign that says, in case of fire, use stairs unless otherwise instructed. It will tell you the elevator bank. It will actually give you a diagram of where you are, and it will give a diagram of where the exit stairs are on each floor. It is important that you actually understand this sign and know where the exits are. But most importantly, you don't ever want to use an elevator in the event of a fire, because if that elevator goes to a floor that has a fire and the doors open, you can become trapped inside the elevator and actually die inside the elevator cab because of the amount of heat and smoke that can actually come into the elevator. You know, the elevator is just a big open shaft, and it actually will feed the fire from top to bottom. So it's important that you never use an elevator in the event of a fire. Okay, to continue with the discussion of the stickers, as we pointed out, the stickers will be regulation-wise installed on the hinge side of the door, 1 foot up from the floor. But the fire department has asked us for the end apartments that we not only put them on the hinge side, but we're also going to put it on the face of the door buck. So when the fire department starts to crawl down the hallway, they can shine their light directly on the face of the door buck and be able to identify that apartment without having to go around and try to find the sticker on the side. So the end apartments, you will see them both on the inside door buck and also on the face of the door buck. But no matter where they are, it is imperative that you do not touch them, because they are there to save your life and the life of a firefighter. As we've been talking about, we're going to be talking a little bit about fire safety. And since I've been hired, which is almost 2 years to this month, I've embarked on a vigorous inspection campaign here at Riverbay. My goal is to inspect every building within the community, and I'm probably about 60% done. And during that period, I will identify hazards. I identify the hazards, I fill out a violation form, and it gets sent out to the individual department to make the repairs. I am also conducting mold inspections almost on a daily basis throughout the community in shareholders' apartments and townhouses. And it's at that time that I'm able to locate and discover electrical hazards that are numerous throughout the apartments. So at this time, we'd like to just point out some of the hazards and some of the serious electrical concerns that should be addressed with every shareholder. And the first one I'd like to talk about is what we call an adapter, an outlet adapter. Now, if you notice, this has 6 plugs, and this will plug directly into the outlet, okay? And as you know, an outlet only has 2 plugs. So when you plug this into the outlet, you convert it from 2 to 6. Directly, you are actually overloading the outlet just by putting this in. But the real problem comes in as to what you're actually plugging into this device here. Of course, the more that you plug into this, the more of an overload you're creating on the outlet, and what you're plugging into this also will create an overload. I will go on to say also that it is important that all shareholders, whatever they buy electrically, they have to make sure that the piece of equipment that they buy has a label on it. Now, this label will either say UL for Underwriters Laboratory, or it will say FM for Factory Mutual. That means it's been tested by those agencies. If you go to a store that does not have a label and you buy an electrical device or an electrical outlet or anything electrically, even a radio or coffee maker, and it does not have that UL label, it's probably not a safe bet to be buying that piece of equipment because it is unsafe. So if you can not use these, it would be to your benefit, okay? The next problem that we're constantly seeing in apartments is the utilization of extension cords. Now, this really is not an extension cord. It looks like an extension cord. It sort of is, but this is what we call a zip cord. This is really meant for a lamp, okay? It's a low voltage, it's a thin type of gauge wire, but we are finding these being used for a multitude of devices such as washing machines and dryers, and we've seen microwaves being plugged into them. This cord is not designed to take that type of load. If we can try to limit the amount of use of extension cords, that is very important. I know outlets are a premium in apartments today, but if we do have to use an extension cord, the best thing to do is to buy a cord with a heavy duty gauge, something that can take the load that you are drawing, that you are plugging into the outlet. You also do not want ever to put a cord underneath a rug. You never want to put a cord through a doorway, through a window, underneath a throw rug, because every time you step on this cord, you actually crush the inside of the cord, and that's how the cord will break down and start a fire. The last time I want to talk about is something that probably most homeowners and shareholders have, and this is called a surge protector. Now, this surge protector, as you can see, has different outlets, and you plug directly into the outlet, and then you can plug all of your devices here. Now, let me just say that really the concept of a surge protector was really started when the age of the computers came about, because the concept was that if there's a surge back into the apartment or a surge back into the house, that whatever was plugged into this, meaning a computer or a TV, that the surge would not destroy the computer or the TV. But unfortunately, we're finding these being used for a multitude of other uses besides just a computer or a TV. We've seen them being used for microwaves and stoves and refrigerators, and this is not meant for that type of application. Some people think that when they plug these devices into this, that if there's a fire, that this will shut off. That's not the case. It's called a surge protector. You actually need a surge back through this device to have either the circuit breaker or the fuse to pop, meaning cutting off the electricity. So really this is meant for a computer or a TV. It's not meant for the bigger appliances. So if we can try to limit this, that would be beneficial at all. And of course, you know, one thing you always want to do every time you go to use something electrically is you always want to inspect it to make sure it's in good shape. You want to check the wire, make sure there's no cracks, no frays, no cuts in it. If you take a look at this surge protector, if you look at the end one here, it looks like somebody plugged something in here and it arced. Okay, now when that arced, that means two things. Either there was something wrong with the surge protector, or the actual device that they plugged into here, actually there was a malfunction. At that point, they should have immediately unplugged the surge protector and actually discarded the surge protector because it's faulty. We are in a townhouse conducting a safety inspection. And at this time, I'd like to point out some of the hazards that we've identified in the townhouse. I'd first like to start with the electrical hazards that we have identified here in the kitchen. We have an overloaded outlet. Now, when you overload an outlet, you can cause a fire because the wires within the wall can get heated and also become brittle and break and start a fire. The problem with this outlet that we have right here is that we have multiple items plugged into it. We have a small little 3-plug adapter, okay, that has 3 items plugged into it that gets plugged into the outlet. And next to it, we also have another plug that is attached to a mini surge protector. Now, also within that surge protector, we have 3 different appliances that are plugged into the surge protector that get plugged into the outlet. And the problem with this setup, as we see it right here, is that the surge protector is being fed with this dryer and this washing machine, which are plugged into the surge protector, which get plugged into the outlet. That creates an enormous amount of draw on the electric within the kitchen. And the reality is that what you should do with the bigger appliances, whether it be a refrigerator, a dryer, or a washing machine, is plug directly into an outlet without being plugged into an extension cord or a surge protector. So as we talked about, there is an overloaded outlet here. So the best solution would be to unplug this small little adapter that we have here, unplug the 2 cords that are plugged into it, okay? Now this adapter, as you know, is not a surge protector, is only a 3-plug adapter that would overload the outlet, okay? Now we have also plugged into the outlet the surge protector. Now that certainly can stay there, okay? And what we would do is actually unplug the stove, which is plugged into there as well, and we can just move that over, and we can plug in the stove into the outlet, and the surge protector can still stay plugged in with these 2 heavy-duty extension cords, which are connected to the washer and the dryer. It's the best solution that we can come up with now, because we do have heavy-duty cords that are connected to the surge protector, and it's plugged directly into the outlet. And it's really not, it's overloaded in the sense that, of course, if we have the washer and the dryer and the stove on all at once, yes, we would say it's an overload, but the chances of that happening all at once are probably not a reality. So we've come up with a solution here to correct this hazard that we had here with an overload, and certainly just by removing this device, we've reduced the hazard substantially. Okay, we are continuing with our townhouse inspection, and one of the items that we want to talk about is dryers. We have constantly had a rash of dryer fires here and throughout Riverbay, so we want to talk about some of the safety features that one has to put in place before they go to use a dryer. Now, one of the very first things that you need to do is you have to check the lint trap to make sure that the lint trap is completely free of lint buildup. Okay, and the easiest way to do that is just to pull it out and make sure that the actual filter itself is completely free. There's no lint buildup. And if there was lint on here, all you want to do is take your hand and remove the lint and just throw it in the garbage and then reinsert it back into the dryer itself. Also, every once in a while, the best thing to do would be to take a vacuum and stick an insert inside the hole and vacuum out any residual lint that might be built up inside. So once we've done that, we're ready to use our dryer. Every once in a while, you also want to check out the pipe in the back to make sure that there's no lint built up in there. So now we want to use the dryer. The first thing you want to do is to make sure that all of the items that you're putting in the dryer can be dried. So you want to look at the label on the clothing. Secondly, you don't ever want to overload the dryer, because overloading the dryer will tax the dryer and will also start a fire. You also do not want to put rubbers in there. You do not want to put anything flammable in there, because that will instantly start a fire. And the other thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to overheat the dryer, meaning you don't want to put the dryer on long extended periods of dry time, because that will also add to starting a fire in the dryer. We are continuing with our inspection of the townhouse, and one of the most important parts of the inspection is to identify smoke detectors. Now, let me first say, before we actually identify the location of the smoke detectors, of how important smoke detectors are. Smoke detectors are a life safety device, and that if you do not have smoke detectors in your apartment or townhouse, it actually will hinder your waking up in the event of a fire. So it's critical that you have smoke detectors, and of course we want to have working smoke detectors. Now in this townhouse, we should have different smoke detectors throughout the townhouse. One is going to be in the common area, as the one that we see right here. Now this one in the common area should be both a smoke detector / carbon monoxide detector, which has a dual role. And the location that we have here is fine because it's in an open area, and any smoke that's on the main level here will be able to be picked up by this smoke detector, which will activate. We're up on the second floor of the townhouse, and up on the second floor here, we have 2 individual bedrooms. The requirement for smoke detectors is that in each bedroom, there must be a working smoke alarm. We have a bedroom to the left, and we have a master bedroom to the right. If we look at the bedroom to the left, we have a smoke detector which is mounted on the wall. If it's mounted on the wall, it has to be a minimum of 6 inches down below the ceiling. And if we look to the bedroom to the right, unfortunately, the master bedroom does not have a smoke detector. And that is a problem because we want to make sure that every bedroom has a working smoke detector. Because I said earlier, smoke detectors do save lives. And in the event of a fire, the smoke, which could be a very small amount of smoke, will set off the smoke detector, which will ring, which the concept is to be able to wake you if you are sleeping so you can safely evacuate out of the apartment. As we've talked about, all bedrooms require smoke detectors in every bedroom. And one of the best locations to put the smoke detector is on the wall. Now, the requirement of a smoke detector is to have it on the wall at a minimum of 6 inches below the ceiling. And the reason why we want the smoke detector 6 inches below the ceiling, because in a fire, when the smoke travels up, it actually will curl away from the smoke detector. And this space in here is what we call a dead space. And the smoke detector will never activate because the smoke will actually bypass it. So it's critical that we have that smoke detector low enough so that if there's a fire on the floor, that the smoke will actually reach the smoke detector and it will activate and sound the alarm. Okay, we'd like to talk a little bit about fire extinguishers and the importance of them. Every shareholder should have an extinguisher this size, which is a 2.5 pound dry chemical fire extinguisher. This fire extinguisher is good for all purpose. It means it's good for A, which is wood, paper. It's good for B, which is for chemicals and flammables and combustibles. And also C, which is energized electrical equipment. So this is a multi-purpose fire extinguisher that's good for any type of fire that one would have in your apartment. Now, the importance of a fire extinguisher is to be able to extinguish the fire when it's small. This is really only meant for a small waste paper can fire. If anything larger than that, this fire extinguisher will have no use and will actually create the fire to get larger and bigger. Fire doubles in size every 30 seconds. Now, one of the things that you should be aware of with a fire extinguisher is that most fires in apartments, of course, start in the kitchens. So you want to have a fire extinguisher that's close to the kitchen that you can accessibly get to it quickly. But another important feature of a fire extinguisher is to actually keep one in your bedroom. So in the event that a fire starts in your apartment and there is fire there and you have to try to exit, you actually can use the extinguisher to try to extinguish the fire as you're exiting out of the apartment. Now, how do you use an extinguisher? Well, we use the acronym PASS. Pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. Now, it is very important that anytime you go to use an extinguisher, that before you use an extinguisher, that you have called 911 and notified the authorities. So if we use the acronym PASS, every fire extinguisher will have a pin, and the only concept of why the pin is there is so when I press this handle right now, it doesn't actually activate the extinguisher. The moment I pull this pin out, it will be ready to be used. So the first part of the acronym is pull. So I pull the pin, okay? The next is A. I'm going to aim at the base of the fire. So if the fire is in a waste paper basket, the flames will be high. You don't want to shoot the extinguisher at the top of the fire. You want to shoot the extinguisher at the base of the fire where the fire has originated, okay? Then so you have the first acronym is pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, okay? you're going to squeeze the handle so the fire extinguisher discharges, and you sweep back and forth until two things have happened. Either A, the fire has extinguished, or B, the extinguisher is empty. Usually this extinguisher will empty in about 45 seconds. Now, how do I know if the extinguisher is good? Well, every extinguisher, a dry chemical extinguisher, will have a gauge on it. If you look at the gauge, it will tell you whether it's full or empty. Of course, if it's full, it's ready to be used. If it's empty, you can't use it anymore and you have to discard it and just go to Lowe's or Home Depot or some other place to buy a new extinguisher. These are very important, but of course you should be familiar on how to use it first. You don't want to be looking at the label when the fire starts and try to figure out how to use the extinguisher. In closing, we've talked a lot about what fires can do. We've talked about the hazards of fire. We've talked about how to evacuate. It is important that we practice fire prevention all year long. In the United States of America, we have in October something called Fire Prevention Week. That's when we really go out as a campaign and try to preach fire prevention. But we shouldn't do it just during that week. We should preach and practice fire prevention all year long. It is important that we follow the steps that we've given that will help you prevent a fire and also help in the event that there is a fire in your apartment. I am asking all shareholders to contact their association presidents, and we are willing to come with the Red Cross, the fire department, and myself to give lectures and give fire prevention series at every association meeting. You need to contact my office as extension 3624, and we will easily schedule to have that accommodated for you and your shareholders at your specific association meeting. I thank you.